The 12 months. Do you know how many months there are in a year? 12. And what are their names? January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. No sooner does one month end than the next begins. Never yet has February arrived before January has departed, nor has May ever outrun April. The months follow one another in strict order, and they never meet. But people tell a story that in the mountain country of Bohemia, there was once a little girl who saw all 12 months at the very same time. How could that have happened? Well, this is how. In a small village lived a wicked and miserly woman with her own daughter and a stepdaughter. She adored her daughter, but her stepdaughter could do nothing to please her. No matter what the poor girl did, it was wrong. No matter how she turned, it was the wrong direction. The daughter would sprawl upon her feather bed all day long, happily eating gingerbread, while the stepdaughter was busy from dawn till dusk without a moment to sit down, lugging water, hauling firewood from the forest, scrubbing laundry in the river, weeding the garden beds. She knew the bite of the winter cold, the fierce heat of summer, the gusting winds of spring, and the driving rain of autumn. Perhaps it was for this reason that she was once allowed to see all 12 months together. It was deep winter. The month of January rained. Snow lay so heavily that they had to shovel it away from the door, and in the mountain forest, the trees stood waist-deep in drifts and couldn't even sway when the wind struck them. People huddled in their homes, keeping the stoves well stoked. It was at this time, late in the afternoon, that the cruel stepmother opened the door, watched the blizzard swirl, then returned to the warm stove and addressed the stepdaughter. "You should go into the forest and gather some snowdrops. Tomorrow is your sister's name day." The girl looked at her stepmother, wondering if she was jesting or truly sending her to the woods. The forest was terrifying now. And what kind of snowdrops could there be in the middle of winter? They won't emerge until March, no matter how hard one searches. She would only be lost in the woods, bogged down in the snowdrifts. And her sister chimed in. "Even if you perish, no one will cry over you. Go now, and do not return without the flowers. Here is your basket." The girl wept, wrapped a tattered shawl around herself, and stepped out the door. The wind powdered her eyes with snow and tore at her shawl. She walked on, pulling her feet laboriously out of the deep drifts. It grew darker all around. The sky was black, without a single star looking down on the earth. But the ground was faintly brighter because of the snow. Now she reached the forest. It was utterly dark here. She couldn't see her own hands. The girl sat down on a fallen tree and waited. "It doesn't matter where I freeze," she thought. Suddenly, a little light twinkled far off between the trees, as if a star had tangled itself in the branches. The girl got up and walked toward the flame. She sank in the drifts and scrambled over fallen timber. If only, she thought, the light wouldn't go out. But it didn't go out. It burned brighter and brighter. Soon she could smell the warm scent of smoke and hear the crackling of brushwood in the fire. The girl quickened her pace and came out into a clearing. And there she froze in wonder. The clearing was bright, as if lit by the sun. In the middle, a great bonfire blazed, nearly reaching the sky. And seated around the fire were people. Some close to the flames, some further back. They sat and talked quietly. The girl looked at them, wondering. Who are they? They didn't seem like hunters, and even less like woodcutters. Look how splendidly dressed they were. Some in silver, some in gold, some in green velvet. She began to count and numbered 12 of them. 3 were old, 3 were middle-aged, 3 were young, and the last 3 were mere boys. The young men sat closest to the fire, the old men furthest away. Suddenly, one old man, the tallest, bearded and bushy-browed, turned and looked toward where the girl stood. Frightened, she tried to run, but it was too late. The old man asked loudly, "Where have you come from? And what do you want here?" The girl showed him her empty basket and said, "I need to gather snowdrops in this basket." The old man laughed. "Snowdrops in January? Now that's a clever idea." "It wasn't my idea," the girl replied. "My stepmother sent me here for snowdrops and told me not to return home with an empty basket." At this, all 12 looked at her and began to exchange words among themselves. The girl stood listening, but didn't understand their words. It was as if trees were rustling, not people speaking. They talked, and then fell silent. The tall old man turned again and asked, "What will you do if you don't find the snowdrops? They won't peek out before March, you know." "I will stay in the forest," the girl said. "I will wait for March. I would rather freeze in the woods than go home without the snowdrops." She said this and began to cry. And then, one of the 12, the youngest, most cheerful one, with a fur coat slung over one shoulder, stood up and approached the old man. "Brother January, cede your place to me for 1 hour." The old man stroked his long beard and said, "I would, but March cannot precede February." "Come on now," grumbled another old man, shaggy and with a dishevelled beard. "Give way, I won't argue. We all know her well. You meet her at the ice hole with pails, or in the woods with a bundle of firewood. She's familiar to all the months. We must help her." "Well, have it your way," said January. He struck the ground with his icy staff and spoke. "Do not crackle, frosts. In the ancient grove, near the pine, near the birch. Do not gnaw the bark. Cease to freeze the rooks and to chill the homes of human folk." The old man fell silent, and a deep stillness settled over the forest. The trees stopped cracking from the frost, and the snow began to fall thickly, in large, soft flakes. "Well, now it's your turn, brother," said January, and handed the staff to his lesser brother, shaggy February. February struck the staff, shook his beard, and boomed, "Winds, storms, and hurricanes, blow with all your might. Whirlwinds, blizzards, and snow squalls rage through the night. Trumpet loudly in the clouds, swirl above the land. Let the ground blizzard sweep the fields like a white serpent." No sooner had he spoken than a wild, damp wind roared through the branches. Snowy flakes spun and white vortices raced over the ground. And February passed his icy staff to the youngest brother and said, "Now it's your turn, Brother March." The youngest brother took the staff and struck the ground. The girl watched, and it was no longer a staff. It was a large branch, fully covered in buds. March smiled and sang out loudly in his full boyish voice, "Scatter now, little streams, spread out, puddles deep, climb out, little ants, from winter's frosty sleep." The bear makes his way through the forest brush. The birds have begun to sing, and the snowdrop blooms. The girl clapped her hands in astonishment. Where had the tall snowdrifts gone? Where were the icy icicles that hung from every branch? Beneath her feet was soft spring earth. All around, things dripped, flowed, and murmured. The buds on the branches were swollen, and the first green leaves were already peeking out from beneath the dark bark. The girl gazed, unable to look away. "Why are you standing there?" March told her. "Hurry, my brothers gave us only 1 hour." The girl woke up and ran into the thicket to seek the snowdrops. And there were countless masses of them. under bushes and under stones, on hummocks and under hummocks, everywhere she looked. She filled her basket, filled her apron, and hurried back to the clearing where the bonfire had been burning, where the 12 brothers had been sitting. But there was no fire, no brothers. The clearing was bright, but not in the way it was before. The light wasn't from a fire, but from the full moon that had risen over the forest. The girl regretted that she had no one to thank, and ran toward home, and the moon seemed to float after her. Scarcely feeling her feet, she reached her door, and no sooner had she stepped inside than the winter blizzard once again roared outside the windows, and the moon hid in the clouds. "Well," her stepmother and sister asked, "you've returned already? And where are the snowdrops?" The girl said nothing, only tipped the snowdrops from her apron onto the bench and set the basket beside them. The stepmother and sister gasped. "But where did you get them?" The girl told them everything just as it happened. They listened, both shaking their heads, believing and not believing. It was hard to believe, yet there was a whole pile of fresh, sky-blue snowdrops on the bench. The scent of March wafted from them. The stepmother and daughter exchanged glances and asked, "Did the months give you nothing else?" "I didn't ask for anything else." "What a fool! What a total fool!" said the sister. "To meet all 12 months for once in her life, and she asked for nothing but snowdrops. Well, if I were in your place, I would know what to ask for. From one, sweet apples and pears; from another, ripe strawberries; from a third, white mushrooms; from a fourth, fresh cucumbers." "Clever girl, my daughter," said the stepmother. "In winter, strawberries and pears are priceless. We could sell them and make so much money. And this blockhead just lugged home snowdrops. Dress warmly, daughter, and go to the clearing. They won't fool you, even if there are 12 of them and you are alone." "As if they could," the daughter replied, pulling her hands into her sleeves and throwing a shawl over her head. Her mother cried after her, "Put on your mittens, button up your fur coat." But the daughter was already out the door. She ran to the forest. She followed her sister's footprints, hurrying. "I must get to the clearing quickly," she thought. The forest grew thicker, darker. The drifts were higher, and the fallen timber stood like a wall. "Oh," thought the stepmother's daughter, "why did I ever come to the forest? I should be lying at home in a warm bed, and now I have to walk and freeze. I'll probably perish here." The moment she thought this, she saw a light twinkling in the distance, exactly like a little star tangled in the branches. She walked toward the light. She walked and came out into the clearing. In the middle of the clearing, a great bonfire burned, and around the fire sat the 12 brothers, the 12 months. They sat and talked quietly. The stepmother's daughter walked right up to the fire without bowing, without a kind word, but chose the hottest spot and began to warm herself. The month brothers fell silent. The forest grew quiet, and suddenly January month struck the ground with his staff. "Who are you?" he asked. "Where did you come from?" "From home," the stepmother's daughter replied. "Your company gave my sister a whole basket of snowdrops today, so I followed her tracks." "We know your sister," said January month, "but we've never seen you before. Why have you come to us?" "For gifts. Let June month fill my basket with strawberries, and the largest ones, and July month with fresh cucumbers and white mushrooms, and August month with sweet apples and pears, and September month with ripe nuts, and October." "Wait," said January month. "Summer cannot precede spring, and spring cannot precede winter. June month is still far away. I am the master of the forest now. I will reign here for 31 days. What an angry one you are, said the stepmother's daughter. I didn't come to you. All you're good for is snow and frost. I need the summer months. January month scowled. Seek summer in winter, he said. He waved his wide sleeve, and a blizzard rose in the forest from the ground to the sky, engulfing both the trees and the clearing where the month brothers sat. The fire could no longer be seen through the snow, only the sound of the flames whistling, cracking, and roaring. The stepmother's daughter was terrified. Stop! She screamed. Enough! But what good was that? The blizzard whirled her around, blinded her eyes, and snatched away her breath. She fell into a snowdrift, and the snow covered her entirely. And the stepmother waited and waited for her daughter, looked out the window, ran out the door, but she was nowhere to be found. She wrapped herself warmly and went to the forest. But how could anyone find someone in the thicket during such a blizzard and darkness? She walked and walked, searching and searching, until she too froze. And so, both of them remained in the forest, waiting for summer. But the stepdaughter lived a long life. She grew up, married, and raised children. And, people say, she had a garden near her house. A garden so wonderful that the world had never seen its like. Flowers bloomed, berries ripened, and apples and pears swelled earlier than anywhere else in that garden. In the heat, it was cool there. In the blizzard, it was quiet. All 12 months visit this mistress at once, people would say. Who knows? Perhaps it was true.